Hey y'all, I've been having this ridiculous argument with my husband over the past week and would appreciate a third-party perspective on the issue. I'm currently 7 weeks pregnant with my in vitro fertilization, IVF baby. My husband and I struggle with infertility due to polycystic ovary syndrome, PCOS, and mild male factor infertility over the past 3 years. My husband is 25 years old and I'm 26 years old. We got married at 23 and started trying for a baby right away. But unfortunately, we were never successful at conceiving until we did our first round of IVF. I'm super cautious about this pregnancy because it's still super early. And unfortunately, my mother spilled the beans to my immediate family that I was pregnant. Fortunately, I was able to do damage control and have my 6 family members swear to secrecy that they would not tell anyone until 20 weeks. My husband and I initially made a deal to not tell anyone until we graduated from our IVF clinic at 12-13 weeks. I told my sister initially, and she was the one who spilled the beans about my pregnancy. My husband was very upset, and he has been asking if he could share it with his family since my family already knows. I told him that I'm not comfortable sharing it with his parents because they have made rude comments about referring to any of our future children as test tube babies. They say it in a really demeaning way that I do not like. I've never gotten along with my in-laws, particularly my mother-in-law, who kept asking when we would have a baby, even though I told her about our struggles. My husband feels it's unfair that my family knows about our pregnancy and that he wants to share it with his family. I've been telling my husband to be patient and wait until we graduate from the clinic, because the last thing I need is my mother-in-law giving her opinion on a miscarriage. We've been having heated arguments on the issue, and I feel like my husband is being unfair since this is my pregnancy. I'm the one that had to administer medications to myself, get put under to have my eggs retrieved, and deal with the emotional impact stress of pregnancy. I don't think I'm being unreasonable asking him to wait literally 5 more weeks. Edit, forgot to include that my husband was okay with sharing my pregnancy with my mom at first until she was the one to spill the beans. Update, thanks for the feedback everyone. I have my first ultrasound today, and I told my husband that as long as everything looks good, he can tell his folks. It's only fair, but he is to do damage control in the event I lose this pregnancy. My in-laws were not very supportive of us doing IVF because they viewed it as playing God. My condition puts me at risk of miscarriage, and I just didn't want to hear my mother-in-law say it was God's will or that I deserve it. Also, I was wrong for calling it my pregnancy, since technically we both went through the struggles of infertility treatment together. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You're the idiot, slightly. Your husband agreed to not share the news with the exception of one person who could offer you additional support. Now, 6 members of your family know, while none of his do. That part is not your fault, of course, but your husband has 2 issues to deal with. 1. His parents find out 6 members of your family knew for weeks before they were told. 2. Something awful happens, and you have a mother and potentially other family rallying around you to show their support. He's got no one, unless you allow him to tell his parents in retrospect, which is an awful conversation to have, trust me. This is coming from someone that did IVF and struggled with infertility for many years. It's awful, no doubt about it. But it's hard on your partner as well, and you're putting him in a tough spot. I would let him tell them, but in private where he can explain your wish to keep it quiet for a few more weeks and let them know how hurtful test tube comments are and that they won't be tolerated. Comment 2. Not the idiot. And I'm sad to tell you that you do not just have an in-law problem, you have a husband problem. Tell him that you 100% need his support during this pregnancy. Add that you are both sorry and pissed that your mom violated your trust, but that does not create any sort of logic trigger that allows a download of information to his family. Nothing has happened that changes the reasoning behind the initial decision. Whether it's fair or not is irrelevant because this is to do with your well-being and levels of stress during the pregnancy. Further, you need to make an explicit agreement with him in regards to a zero-tolerance policy regarding nonsense from them. If they speak ill of the baby or nature of conception, they will not be allowed a relationship, and that they need to be explicitly told that by him when it is time for the announcement so that they are not given a chance even once to say something unforgivable. Now, for the update. Hey y'all, thanks for sticking around. So where do I even start? The past few days have been very eventful, and I'm not sure if I'm coming or going. After my last post, things took a turn. My husband, bless his heart, decided to go against my wishes and told his parents about the pregnancy. I was livid. I mean, we had an agreement, right? But no, he just had to go and share it because he felt left out. And guess what? His mom, the queen of tactlessness, started planning a baby shower. A baby shower at 7 weeks. I couldn't believe it. Then my sister, the original bean spiller, got wind of the baby shower plans and felt guilty. She tried to make amends by talking to my mother-in-law, trying to explain why it was too early for celebrations. But you know what that did? It sparked a feud between our families. My parents were dragged into it, and suddenly, it was like we were all back in high school dealing with petty drama. In the midst of this family chaos, I had my ultrasound. The baby was fine, thank God, but the stress of everything was taking its toll on me. I was a mess and my husband was trying to play peacemaker, but it was too little, too late. The next day, my mother-in-law, in her infinite wisdom, decided to post about the upcoming baby shower on social media. My phone blew up with messages from distant relatives and friends, all congratulating me. It was overwhelming. I felt exposed and betrayed. I had wanted to keep this private, at least for a little while longer. I confronted my husband, and we had it out. I told him how his actions had made me feel, how he had disregarded my feelings in our agreement. He was apologetic, but the damage was done. I needed to take control of the situation, so I did something I never thought I'd do. I called his parents and canceled the baby shower. I explained that it was too early and too stressful for me. They were upset, of course, but I stood my ground. It was a bold move and it caused a rift. But I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. The aftermath was quiet. My husband and I had a long talk about boundaries and respect. He understood where I was coming from and agreed to support me in whatever decisions I made regarding the pregnancy. We decided to keep our families at arm's length for the time being, focusing on us and the baby. But just when I thought things were settling down, my sister called crying. She had been arguing with my mother-in-law and let slip that we were considering moving to another state after the baby was born. This was supposed to be a secret, just between my husband and me, something we were mulling over to get some distance from the family drama. Word got out, and it was like a bomb had gone off. Accusations were thrown around, feelings were hurt, and the family divide grew even deeper. It was a mess, but in a way, it solidified our decision. We needed a fresh start, away from the toxicity. So we're moving. It's a big step, but it feels right. My husband and I are on the same page now, and we're looking forward to building a new life together with our little one. Thanks for reading, y'all. It's been a chaotic ride, but I'm hopeful for what's to come. My half-sisters turned my baby shower into a war zone. But when their lives fell apart, I inherited a fortune and showed them who's the favorite daughter. I'm a 26-year-old female, and I'm pregnant, as are my two half-sisters, who are 27 and 29 years old. Our aunt asked each of us individually if she could host a baby shower for us. My two half-sisters agreed, thinking it was just for the two of them. However, our aunt revealed to me that it was going to be a surprise with all three of us as the guests of honor. I asked her why she would surprise them like that, and she explained that they haven't seen me since I became pregnant, so she thought it would be amazing for the three of us to have a joint shower since we're all pregnant around the same time. Background: my half-sisters and I share a dad. He had an on and off relationship with their mom, and during one of the off periods, he met my mom. He quickly married my mom, and a few months later, I was on the way. My half-sister's mom also got married around that time. They lived with their mom and stepdad most of the time, and we would spend every other weekend together. We weren't close growing up. My dad had a good relationship with them, and they adored him, but they never wanted me around. Despite being close in age, they would often leave me behind, ignore me, and act like I didn't exist. They acknowledged their half-siblings born through their mom, but they never even acknowledged me as a half-sibling. Around our dad, maybe, but not when anyone else was around. Family vacations were tough because we would end up sharing a room, and they would tell me they didn't like me or want me there. They would even say I ruined their sister time. As adults, nothing has really changed between us. Our dad is disabled from a terminal illness, so there aren't many casual encounters anymore. Extended family has noticed this dynamic. Most of them accept that it's what my half-sisters want. However, my aunt seems to ignore the fact that it's their choice and not due to conflicting schedules or something like that. So she came up with this idea for the baby shower. I explained why it was a bad idea and made it clear that they don't want me in their lives and wouldn't include me on their guest list, let alone share the day with me. She called me ridiculous and insisted that they would love it. I informed her that I would not take part in this. She still tried to convince me that it would be fun, and when I continued to refuse, she said I should be thankful for her wanting to do this for me. I asked her why she didn't tell them the whole truth and see what they say. She accused me of trying to ruin the surprise and being ungrateful. Am I the jerk? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, not the idiot. That idea has disaster written all over it. It would totally ruin their day. No offense to you. I'm sure you're a lovely person. In fact, knowing that this would ruin their special day and choosing not to be vindictive makes you a better person than they seemingly ever were to you. Ant can pound salt, kick rocks, and then hug a cactus, in that order. Comment 2, not the idiot. It's annoying to be called ungrateful when you don't want something someone else is trying to foist on you for their own reasons. So stick to your decision to not attend or participate, and for your own sanity, don't get into it with your aunt anymore. Now for the update, thanks for sticking around for more of my family drama. So the baby shower happened, and it was a mess. Aunt went ahead with her plan, and my half-sisters, well, they were blindsided. When they saw me, the look on their faces was like they just swallowed lemons. The whole room tensed up. I could feel the stares, the whispers. It was clear they didn't want me there, but Aunt was beaming, clueless to the storm she just stirred up. Things got worse when gifts started rolling in. Aunt had combined our guest lists, so some of the presents were from people my sisters didn't even know. They were fuming, barely hiding their anger as they unwrapped baby blankets and onesies from my friends. I tried to keep a low profile, but the damage was done. A week later, Dad's health took a turn for the worse. We all rushed to his side, and in that hospital room, the tension was thick. My sisters barely acknowledged me, but I was more focused on Dad. He was struggling, and it hurt to see him like that. We all knew he didn't have much time left. Then one night it happened. Dad's will was accidentally left out where I could see it. I wasn't supposed to, but I took a peek. Turns out he'd left me a significant portion of his estate, more than my half-sisters expected. When they found out, it was World War III. Accusations flew. They called me a gold digger, said I manipulated our sick father. But I knew the truth. Dad had always felt guilty for how they treated me, and this was his way of making it up to me. The inheritance was a turning point. My sisters demanded I renounce my share, but I refused. I was tired of being the doormat, the one who always had to give in. So I stood my ground. They threatened to cut me off completely. But let's be real, we were never really connected to begin with. Then came the news. My oldest sister's husband, who'd always been a bit too friendly, confessed he'd been in love with me for years. He said he was trapped in a loveless marriage, staying only for the kids. My sister overheard and all hell broke loose. Their marriage imploded, and somehow I was the villain again, accused of seducing him, which I never did. But I had my own life to think about, my baby on the way. I focused on that, on building a better future for us. I found a new place away from the family drama and started fresh. My sisters were left to pick up the pieces of their shattered lives, and I felt a twinge of guilt. But I also felt free for the first time in years. Months passed, and my baby was born. A beautiful, healthy child who had no idea of the chaos they'd been born into. I sent out birth announcements, more out of obligation than anything else. To my surprise, my sisters reached out. They wanted to meet their niece. I was wary, but I agreed. They came over, and it was awkward but civil. We talked, really talked, for the first time in years. They apologized for how they treated me, said they were wrong to blame me for their own issues. I could see the regret in their eyes, and I realized they were just as trapped in our family's toxic patterns as I was. We started to rebuild slowly. It wasn't easy, and there were setbacks, but we were trying. And as I watched my child grow, surrounded by a family that was learning to heal, I felt a sense of vindication. I hadn't just survived the drama, I'd come out stronger, and in the end, my sisters had to face their own demons. So that's where we are now, It's not perfect, but it's real and it's ours. Thanks for reading. My cousin secretly banned my boyfriend from her wedding over a misunderstood joke. So I exposed her pettiness to the entire family and watched as her perfect day unraveled. My cousin, 28 years old, and I, 26 years old, are incredibly close, practically like sisters. We've shared everything from childhood memories to discussing our love lives. I've always been there for her, offering a shoulder to cry on whenever a guy broke her heart. She is getting married this December. In my country, everyone pays for their own seat at the table. I've been in a committed relationship with my boyfriend for 4 years, and we're eagerly planning our own future together, including getting married after we finish our theses. Despite our close bond, my cousin has never met my boyfriend in person, only through video calls. I've extended invitations for her to visit and meet him numerous times, but due to her busy schedule, she's never been able to make it. Conversely, I've made the effort to travel to her city and meet her boyfriend. We were eagerly anticipating the moment when they would finally meet at her wedding, and we had even discussed it during our last conversation. We had dreams of traveling the world together, making plans, and continuing to be the inseparable duo, now four, we've always been. However, my excitement was abruptly shattered when my mom received a call from my aunt, my cousin's mom, delivering unexpected news. They had decided not to invite significant others of family members to the wedding due to budget constraints, while still allowing the partners of her friends to attend. This decision felt like a slap in the face, particularly after all the anticipation we had shared about her and her partner finally meeting mine at her wedding. I couldn't shake the feeling that this decision was made to avoid upsetting her friends, some of whom had let her down multiple times in the past, and that they take me for granted. The news left me feeling devastated. It wasn't just about not being invited anymore. It felt like I had lost a piece of my family. All the plans we had made together suddenly evaporated. While my boyfriend wasn't angry, he understandably questioned the value of investing in future vacations with someone who hadn't even invited him to their wedding. Additionally, it hurt even more that my cousin didn't have the courage to tell me herself. Instead, she had her mom relay the message through mine. When I expressed my disappointment, some family members, particularly uncles and aunts, accused me of ruining my cousin's wedding day by speaking up. They argued that it was her day and she had the right to do as she pleased. However, I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal. While I understood weddings are expensive, my boyfriend had even offered to pay for his seat, as is customary in our country. So am I the idiot for speaking up? Edit. I'd like to add that I am particularly hurt because my cousin didn't tell me herself, though we spoke on the phone yesterday morning and she knew she was not inviting my boyfriend and that my aunt was going to call any day to deliver the news. Yet she didn't say a word about retracting the verbal invitation. Posting this here because I want to see both sides of the problem before speaking directly to my cousin. I don't want to act out of anger without getting perspective. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the jerk NTA reading the comments that she had already said she was looking forward to meeting your boyfriend at the wedding would imply an invite for both of you. Only inviting significant others of certain people and not others is tacky and disrespectful. Honestly, I wouldn't go at this point. Comment 2. Firstly, you haven't ruined your cousin's wedding just because you expressed disappointment. Secondly, have you spoken to your cousin about this and made the offer directly to her to have your boyfriend pay for his seat at the wedding? Now, for the update, thanks for tuning in again. So the past few days have been very eventful. After the whole wedding invite mess, I decided to call my cousin directly. I needed answers. Why would she do this to me? We've always been upfront with each other, or so I thought. The phone rang and my heart was pounding. When she picked up, her voice was cheerful, like nothing was wrong. I felt a lump in my throat. I asked her straight up why my boyfriend wasn't invited. There was a pause, and then she said it was all about the budget. But here's the thing. She slipped up and mentioned her fiancé's cousin, who I know for a fact just started dating someone a month ago, was bringing his new girlfriend. That stung. It didn't add up. I could feel the anger bubbling up, but I kept it cool. I told her how much it hurt me, and she just said she was sorry I felt that way. It was like talking to a stranger. I hung up feeling worse than before. My boyfriend saw how upset I was and suggested we take a walk. As we were walking, he stopped and looked at me. He said he had something to confess. My stomach dropped. He told me that a year ago, when my cousin visited our city for a conference, they had actually met. They bumped into each other at a coffee shop, and she recognized him from our video calls. They chatted for a bit, and he thought nothing of it. But he didn't tell me because he didn't want to make a big deal out of a small coincidence. I was floored. Why would she lie about not meeting him? And why would he keep this from me? I felt betrayed by both of them. It was like a double whammy of secrets and lies. My boyfriend apologized, saying he didn't think it was important, but it was important to me. It felt like everyone was keeping secrets, and I was the last to know. The next day, I got a text from my cousin. She wanted to meet up and talk. I agreed, but I was wary. We met at a park, and she looked nervous. She started by apologizing for not being honest. Then she dropped the news. She confessed that during that coffee shop encounter, my boyfriend had made a joke about marriage that she took the wrong way. She thought he was mocking her engagement because it was so soon after they had started dating. She was hurt and didn't want any tension at her wedding. I was shocked. It was all a big misunderstanding. My boyfriend is a joker, and I knew he didn't mean any harm. But I also understood why she'd be sensitive about it. We talked it out, and she admitted she should have just talked to me about it instead of making this decision without explaining. I had a choice to make. I could stay mad and let this tear our relationship apart, or I could try to understand and move past it. It wasn't easy, but I chose to forgive her. She agreed to talk to her fiancé about the guest list again, and I agreed to talk to my boyfriend about being more careful with his words. In the end, they found a way to squeeze in a few more seats, and my boyfriend was invited. It was a relief, but things were still tense. My boyfriend was embarrassed about the whole thing and apologized to my cousin. They cleared the air, and we all agreed to put it behind us. The wedding is back on track, and I'm going to be there for my cousin, just like I always have. It's been a rough few days, but I guess that's just how family is sometimes. You fight, you make up, and you move on. Thanks for sticking with me through this. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.